Hi everybody, welcome to another Thursday Tips and Tricks. The last time I visited with you, I was giving you some of the things that I do to organize the sizable stash of fabrics that I have. And you know, a lot of people were thrilled and wish they had a stash like mine, but some people asked, why do I have so much fabric? Well, you know, years ago, I realized that as a quilt artist, I'm not able to create the exact color or the exact value of fabrics. I had to rely on fabrics that were already printed and in my stash in order to be able to get the look that I wanted in each of my specific projects. And you know, I was working on this little thing that you see in front of me. It's a little 4-patch project this week, and this is a perfect time for me to kind of illuminate the things that I do with the stash that I have. Now, this project, like I say, is a 4-patch, requires 5 different fabrics. 4 of the fabrics were very quick for me to identify. The multicolor fabric I chose first. This light purple was the next one that I chose, then this burgundy, and then the white background. But there were squares that I wanted to put going across the design that I didn't quite know what I wanted. So I went to my stash, and what I did was I started grabbing fabrics that I thought might look good in there. The first fabric that I grabbed is this beautiful sparkly type fabric, and I put that in there. Pretty as it is, it's not dark enough to give me the look that I wanted in the end, in the finished project. So I went to a gray that was a little darker, and that was better, but that still wasn't quite right. So I went to a different gray that had picked up some of the yellow that was in there. That was definitely not right. That was a pretty quick decision. And when I talked to my good buddy Sarah, she said, "Deb, why don't you think about green?" And I was like, brilliant. So I pulled out a green, and I'm thinking, yeah, that's right. But the first green that I pulled out, even though it was the right shade, it was a little busy. And it's almost a busy design. It's a pretty busy design as it is. And I didn't want to add another busy fabric to the design to add confusion. So I went back to my stash of greens and pulled out another fabric sample, put those in there, and I'm thinking, oh, this is getting good, but it's a little too dark right now. Back to the stash again, pulled out yet another green and put that up there. And when I put it up there, I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's pretty close, but it was still a little bit darker than I wanted. And so what I did for my finished project was I took that final green and turned it over to give me just the right value with just the right tint of green to give me the look that I wanted in my finished project. And you know, this is something that most of you have probably never considered doing, unless of course you're an applique artist, because applique artists do this kind of stuff all the time. If they're looking for a lighter or a darker, they examine both sides of their fabric. You know, you've paid for 2 sides of your fabrics. You might as well consider using both sides of the fabrics. I've been doing this for years. Years ago, I made this quilt for my son when he was actually quite young. And for the star points, I wanted to alternate 2 different colors for the red. And I chose this red and then struggled to find a red that matched or that didn't go pink, because you know, if you do a lighter red, it becomes pink. So I ended up using the wrong side of the fabric to give me that alternating red right there. And it stood the test of time. They've gotten very close over the years, but there's a piece of the old fabric the way that it was. And for years, as someone who loves to do watercolor quilts, this is another time that many of the pieces in here, many of the fabrics, are right side and wrong side. And really, you can't tell. This is the wrong side. This is the right side. This is the wrong side. This is the wrong side. This is the right side. And so unless someone points it out to you, realize that most people are not ever going to see that this is actually the wrong side of the fabric, but it's exactly the right value, exactly the right color, and it's a way to expand your stash to twice the amount and not cost you a penny. So I hope in your future projects, if you can't find just the right color or just the right value, that you consider looking at the back of those fabrics. Sometimes they're lighter, sometimes they're darker, but they're different than what you're seeing out on the right side. Good luck with all your future projects, and I'll see you again in a couple weeks.